This is not a good situation. This is not a good situation at all. It's just been reported that Steph Curry will not play in the first game after the All-Star break. He did not practice today. Let me see. I need to see if this is actually working. I'm not seeing anything yet. I'm not seeing anyone yet. So let me wait a second. We'll get this rolling. Hello, hello. Okay. Okay, now I see. It's active. Hello, chat. Welcome. It's been a minute. I hope you guys enjoyed the break. Obviously, we've had some time off. And Curry has had time off. KP has had time off. And so, best case scenario, we were hoping that both of them will be available for the first game after the All-Star break. And unfortunately, that's not the case right now. It's been reported that Steph Curry did not practice today because he didn't want to go. He didn't want to go out, do a full-blown practice because he knew something was still not right, and that's not good. That's not good. He is not playing tomorrow. It's been reported that he may need to go and get another MRI done, if anything. So there's good news on Kristaps. I knew that Kristaps would be he'll be ready to go soon enough because he was ready to come back for the Hawks while he was still with that team. I am annoyed that Curry is still out. I read he might get another MRI. I'll donate my knees to Steph and Jimmy. So is Curry, injury-prone player. Listen, this is unlike anything Steph Curry has ever dealt with before. He's never had a situation where he's out with it's not really an injury. This is like a wear and tear kind of situation. And you just don't know when this kind of thing will just go away. You rehab as best as you can and you hope that the pain subsides over time, but I don't think there's an exact science behind this. Honest Jim, I think we might have to just look to next season. What could it possibly be? It's a runner's knee. He's feeling soreness. It feels uncomfortable. He can't run like he wants to. There's pain there. There's discomfort there. So the fact that he didn't even want to practice after getting, it's been at least 7 days since the last time the Warriors played, and this is not good. There's no need to rush him back. Well, we want him back ASAP because we need to see what the Warriors look like with Steph Curry back and Kristaps back and seeing what that dynamic looks like. I'm anticipating that it'll be amazing because the Warriors, without those two guys, have been competing. They've been competing at a high level. Even against the Spurs, they put up a really good fight, right? So obviously, towards the end there was a talent difference, but you saw how the Warriors were able to beat the Suns on the road. What was the other team that they ended up beating before they ran into the Grizzlies, right? They beat the Grizzlies by a point. And most people would assume with Steph Curry out of the picture, the Warriors they're one of the worst teams in the league. That's what they're supposed to be, right? They're missing all kinds of bodies, They're missing Jimmy Butler, Steph Curry, Kristaps Porzingis. And so you're ultimately relying on, Al Horford, Melton, Guy Santos, guys like this. And well, that was good enough for them to get 2-game winners. And so the fact that they have the structure in place and that they're able to win games despite not having their number one option, number two option, number three option. That's pretty incredible. That is not something that we're accustomed to when it comes to the Warriors. And yet they were able to get that done. So that's why you add a Steph Curry and a Kristaps to that equation. Suddenly the Warriors look very potent and they look, dare I say, even scary. And that's the problem is that we need these guys back. Obviously, the most important guy that needs to come back is Steph Curry. I guess we may get a look at Kristaps, get him into the rotation and see what that looks like. Again, their their defense is in place, right? They're Steve Kerr is finally using more size now. He's trusting Santos more. He's even putting him at the small forward spot. So the bigger the Warriors are, the more reliable they become all around, both on offense and defense. So we just gotta pray when it comes to Steph. You gotta pray that this runner's knee situation is something that is temporary and something that he can manage and something that will get away from him so that he can get back to being himself and playing basketball. It's time for Curry to have a big rest. Well, that's the thing is he's had some rest. That's the thing. He's had about what 2 weeks of rest now. Let me see. Do you think we sit Curry for the whole season? This is not about. This is about how Curry feels. Curry would never voluntarily sit unless he's really hurt and he really can't go, and that's the situation right now, right? And we were hoping for the best news possible coming out of the All-Star break, and this is not it. We were hoping that he would practice with everybody and would be ready to go for the second half of the season. Well, it's well underway for this. There's what 27 games left, and the Warriors need to, if they want to make the playoffs, they gotta win like 20 games, and they're capable of that. This is what I'm trying to this is what I'm trying to express. But right now we have no answers. Right now, all we know is that Steph didn't feel good enough to practice, and that's not good. Did they say something today about his knee? Why this title? Yeah. So as I just said, it's been reported he's not going to play tomorrow against the Celtics. It's not going to be enough. They need to pack it up and aim for next season, hopefully with a different coach. Pray that it's with a different coach. Do not need Steve Kerr anymore. Steve Kerr is just, he's not a real coach. Although he's done some things this season where he's finally fixed up, but things would simply just be so much better if they had an actual expert, an actual manager, an actual guy who knows how to manage his team, his older players, understanding that tiny lineups don't work in this league. The NBA is a league of giants. Like knowing these basic facts, you need a you need a coach who knows these things. Terry Stotts would be one of those guys. I would be thrilled if Terry Stotts ends up taking over for Steve Kerr. Also, time to stop this offense where 37 years expected to run nonstop all over the floor. Yeah, I mean, honestly, the offense would be easier if you just gave the ball to Steph Curry instead of forcing him to run around for an entire possession before finally getting to the ball, right? If he just has the ball, there's no reason for him to run around ultimately to get the ball, right? Why does he run around? Ultimately, it's to get the ball. If you just give him the ball from the jump, there wouldn't be all this wear and tear on him, right? You don't need to use him like JJ Redick because a guy like JJ Redick, Kyle Korver, these guys need the space, the open space to get their shot up because they don't have the handles to create their own shots with any consistency. That's why they are shooters. That's why you run plays for them and they have to run around in circles, coming off the curls, using all kinds of screens to get open. And Steph Curry, sure, he's capable of doing that, but he doesn't need to do that because he can create those shots all by himself. Right? That's the difference between Steph Curry and those guys. That's why you don't just call Steph Curry a shooter because he can create his own shots. It's not better today. It's not going to be better anytime soon. I mean, we'll see. That's the thing about this situation is that there's not exactly a clear-cut timeline for it, right? Not good news that Curry's still out. Sitting Curry for the whole season is crazy unless Curry has a season-ending injury. Is Steve Kerr's fault? Yeah. I would definitely put, these injuries that have happened, the Jimmy Butler injury, guys getting taxed to the ground, all these things. A lot of that is a result of the things that Steve Kerr does over a long period of time, just like how in the playoff last year, it took 7 games for the Warriors to get out of the first round. Think about this for a second. The Warriors, they made this giant run in the second half, right? And then Steve Kerr did like the dumbest things imaginable in the final games. The Warriors could have made the playoffs, but Steve Kerr did some dumb things to ensure that they would end up having to play in the play-in. So the Warriors end up going to the play-in, you know, and going all the way in that game, and then running into, a second seed. And if Steve Kerr did the right things there, imagine this: Steve Kerr started Steph Curry, Potts, and Buddy Hield alongside Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green. I mean, that is a criminal lineup. And I was fighting it the entire way in the playoffs, but ultimately they ended up going to a game 7, and then they got like a day of rest before going into the second round against the Timberwolves. Next thing you know, Steph Curry pulls a hammy for the first time in his career. And before that, Jimmy Butler got destroyed underneath the basket, right? These things are less likely to happen if there are bigger bodies on the floor, those bigger bodies doing the dirty work of trying to get rebounds and stuff like this, instead of Jimmy Butler trying to do those things, right? So Jimmy Butler wasn't, after he got injured there against the Rockets, he wasn't the same, right? And then Steph Curry again never pulled a hammy in his life, but you tax him to the ground, you run him to the ground, and then he's not available for the second round of the playoffs, right? And then the same thing happens this season, right? He did not learn the lessons that he should have learned last season, and went right back to the tiny lineups and all these things. And that's been the story of this season, and that's where we are now. Steph is not slowing down, that's for sure, but his body says otherwise. Very common for athletes ages 35 to be experiencing non-contact injuries or health issues. This is already a sign. I mean, we'll see. I'm not jumping to any conclusions. Porzingis confirmed he will play tomorrow. Some good news. That's great news. That's great news. I think while Steph Curry gets himself right with this situation, if he needs to get another MRI, then do whatever he needs to do. But in the meantime, to get that extra help with a guy like Kristaps Porzingis will be big. We'll see how Steve Kerr incorporates the situation, with Guy Santos, Al Horford, Kristaps, and Draymond. Like, who's he going to close with, right? That's a really interesting, because Kristaps should be at the center spot, obviously, right? Who's going to be a power forward? Is it going to be Draymond, or is it going to be Al Horford? That's a huge question mark, right? Because at this point, I think Al Horford is a better player than Draymond Green. So I think Al Horford should be closing at the power forward spot. They'd be better defensively, and they would be better off offensively as well. We'll see what Steve Kerr ends up doing with that. But Guy Santos is probably going to be at the small forward spot. So you have Guy Santos, who's 6'8", 230 pounds. You got Al Horford at power forward. You got Kristaps at the center spot. You have a lot of length. You have a lot of rim protection. You have a lot of paint protection. You have a lot of help defense, right? So, and then at the guard spot, take your pick. Probably be like Melton and Moody or something, right? Get Potts out of there. He should not be closing any game whatsoever. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. Tomorrow night, we're gonna find out. There's gonna be a game, and I've been away from home for personal reasons. Obviously, you can see this is not the normal setting that I have, but I should be back home tomorrow. I should have everything set up so that I can cover the game tomorrow. And we'll see how many minutes Kristaps can play for. Knowing Celebrini, I bet you he's not going to play more than like 24 minutes. I mean, it's actually insane that D'Anthony Melton is still on a minutes restriction. He's played. Obviously, there's only 27 games left on the season, and he's played 28 games or so. And shoot, I think even Klay Thompson, coming back from 2 devastating injuries, did not have this kind of restriction where D'Anthony Melton still can only still play 24 minutes. I think that's ridiculous. I think he's okay. I think he's capable of playing more than just 24 minutes. Like the last game against the Spurs, if they had him closing instead of Potts, maybe they would have had, a more competitive result, for example. Would it have been, oh no, the science says if D'Anthony Melton plays 2 to 3 more minutes in the final minutes of that Spurs game, then something will go seriously wrong. You know what I'm saying? That's not science. That is just Rick Celebrini being, sometimes the guy has a stick up his butt, right? As good as he's capable of being in terms of managing I think sometimes he does a little bit too much, and I think that's what he's doing with D'Anthony Melton right now. And I think the Warriors, the way the structure that they have with even a guy like Kristaps in the picture, they're capable of beating a team like the Celtics. That's how I feel about it. Um, and they need to win as many games as possible while Curry is out, and they need to continue to show that they can compete at a very high level even without Steph Curry. That's how we will know that the Warriors are for real and they'll have a shot. If they can make it into the playoffs, play in whatever the case may be, if they can get into a 7 game series, right? And they have this structure in place where they can be competitive without Steph Curry, then we will know that it's Steph Curry and defense at the end of the day when it comes to the playoffs. If Steph Curry has a 8 to 9 man rotation of strong players that are strong defenders and are reliable and aren't holes and there's no structural breaks because Steve Kerr is going to tie in lineups and all these things, right? If the defense is strong, then the Warriors can beat anybody in a 7 game series if you have Steph Curry, a healthy Steph Curry. That was the story in 2021-22, right? Steph Curry carried that team to the finals and took over in the finals and dominated, and that's how they won the championship, right? It was Steph Curry and defense. It's not because Andrew Wiggins is a legit second option. He's not a legit second option, even though he played really well. He's he's more like a third option, right? At the end of the day, but because his defense was strong and because the defense was strong across the board, everything was set up really well. Otto Porter Jr., really reliable defender. Uh, Mike Brown setting up the defense and organizing things in a way where guys are in really great position, right? And making sure that, guys, whatever bad habits maybe, that's where Mike Brown cleans it up, right? So that's how they were able to win that title. And, you know, as long this season, the defense, the way they play defense is very different compared to what they did in 21-22 under Jerry Stackhouse. But as long as their funnel style defense, the help defense, if they have the size to play that type of defense, then their defense can be elite. We've seen that this season, and well, we have that. Al Horford, Kristaps Porzingis, Draymond to a lesser extent at this point. Guy Santos, they have a lot of defense there. They still have Melton. They still have GP2 for POA. So there's a lot of things structurally in place for the Warriors to be really good the rest of the way. It all comes down to Steph Curry. You got to pray for Steph Curry and that his knee will be okay and that his knee will be healthy at some point in the next, let's say, week or two. I think that's the best case scenario at this point. It's good. I'm happy. Still happy. Let's hope our pick lands top 15. I don't give a hoots about any pick. The Warriors should be looking to trade their picks to get somebody more real for this team, if anything, because I am tired of the Warriors trying to develop young players who are not ready to contend for a title while they have Steph Curry. Look at what's happened with freaking Brandon Pajemski, man. You want another Brandon Pajemski situation? See what I'm saying? And the Warriors, they're so dumb. They overvalue all their picks like crazy, and it takes them years before they realize, oh, this guy's not real. They're not going to do anything real with this guy as the future of their team, right? That's the situation with Potts right now. He's a role player. He's not a star. And yet, I don't want to hear about picks, okay? Even if we try to tank, I don't feel like we would really get a high draft pick. There's Curry having this knee injury reminds me of the 16 season when he came back too early from the knee injury. Yeah, I mean, Curry's clearly he's taking his time. He's not trying to rush back. That's why he didn't practice today. And yeah, that obviously that just altered the course of history in the 2016 season in the playoffs. He got injured, came back too early, and was not the same. That wasn't Curry. That came back that season. And in the finals, like his knee wasn't right, right? So Curry putting all the burden to Curry in both offense and defense. So is Curry gonna be back against the Nuggets? We'll see. Good evening. Love from Philippines. Hello, Jeff Quinto from the Philippines. Appreciate you being here. What do you think of Warriors signing another guard to the roster? Absolutely awful. They need to go and get a wing. They need to get I think Highsmith is gone now, right? He signed with a different team, so that's unfortunate. But you need to see who else gets released by another team or something along those lines. Worst case scenario, maybe go grab George Niang, but do not go and get another guard. That's the last thing the Warriors need. Another guard. Potts, Melton, Gee, Dre, Horford tomorrow. Uh, well, that's a good question. Will they start Kristaps if he's available? That is what they probably should do. But actually, if Porzingis is going to have a minutes restriction, then it may be better off that he comes off the bench so that he'll be available to close the game. All right, because to start the game, I mean, the way the Warriors start games, like I feel like it doesn't really matter. I want to congratulate the Warriors, FO, and Joe Lacob for successfully wasting what's left of Steph's prime. Freaking charlatans. Curry isn't going to risk further injury. They probably know that this is a play-in team just so. Oh, so let me tell you guys this, and you can consider this an exclusive of sorts. But I don't think the front office and personnel, the people on the Warriors, they don't they don't believe in a lot of the guys on the Warriors. That's what I've come to understand. It's really disappointing. See, like I believe in the players that are on this team if you use them correctly and if you maximize them, by putting them in position to succeed, right? Doing the right things. If the coach is doing the right things, for example, if they're putting these guys in position to succeed, then we'll be talking about these players in a very different light. But because Kerr, he ignored Guy Santos for like half the season while he runs 3 and 4 guard lineups, right? Absolutely preposterous. What does that do? What does that do for the reputation of a guy like Guy Santos? A lot of people who don't see the guy play, they'll be like, "Oh, well, he's like a G leaguer. Guy Santos, who's he? What's he gonna do? Blah blah blah." Right? And this is how Steve Kerr and his coaching staff ruins these players and their reputation, right? Making people believe that these guys are not viable, but it turns out they're absolutely viable. Guy Santos hit 2 game winners in the last 3 games, right? That's incredible, right? And the more he plays, the more he shows what he's capable of, right? Instead of having to just play his heart out for like 3 minute segments and pray that he doesn't get yanked out of a game because of one single mistake, right? It's like he's in high school. It's like he's playing for a tyrant, right? This is not how you manage grown adults. That's how you manage like high school kids that aren't showing discipline and don't know how to play, right? So then you punish them for it. This is a professional league of men, right? And Steve Kerr over here doesn't know how to coach grown men and he acts like, they're like kids or something, and he yanks them if he sees something that he doesn't like from them, right? He'll bench a Jason Tatum, he'll bench a Brandon Ingram, and not play them for an entire game, thinking that like, oh, these guys don't know how to play. These guys don't know how to play my system. They're not a right fit. You know what I'm saying? This is preposterous. And the problem with this is that he's got some enablers, it, in that organization. I'll just say there's some people in there that don't believe in these players like that. They don't speak well of these players. Uh, and that is just I experienced that myself firsthand. I'll just say that. And it's really sad. It's incredibly sad because you as a coach, you as a mentor, you as somebody who is supposed to try to maximize the ability of these players, supposed to have a certain amount of respect for them, right? The fans will say and do what they do. But for you to be an NBA personnel and think and speak of these players in that manner is so incredibly disappointing. You're like a casual almost. It's like, oh, well, we don't have a KD on this team. We don't have like this ultra talent on this team. And therefore, that's not good enough. You know what I'm saying? And that's to know that really important people in this organization feel this way about certain players instead of use your brain and think of ways to maximize these players so that they can become something in this league because they're capable. They're in the league for a reason. And for them to speak of these players in this manner and have this level of disbelief, you know what that disbelief also tells me? That level of disbelief tells me that you don't actually believe in Steph Curry. You still don't believe in Steph Curry, and that is why when the Warriors went into the 21-22 playoffs, Steve Kerr, Bob Myers are having a private conversation about how, oh, Steph Curry, I don't believe that the Warriors can win this season. That was the conversation had between Steve Kerr and Bob Myers. We know that because Bob Myers exposed that conversation. And so to know that your coach went into the playoffs thinking, oh, we're not good enough to win the title this season, well, that tells you what an awful, disgusting leader that Steve Kerr actually is, right? I I'll tell you who did believe in them. I bet you Mike Brown believed in them. Mike Brown believed in all these guys, and trusted that if you put these guys in the right situations, right positions, anything is possible with Steph Curry on the team. That should be the mindset of any great leader going to battle with your soldiers, right? And you're going look at what's happened to Steph Curry and his inability to play because of all this wear and tear. It takes a toll on the body. Playing in the NBA is obviously not a joke, all right? The level of physicality involved in the sport and at the highest level, at that size, at that speed, is no joke, right? You have to respect that. And Steve Kerr has no respect for that. And some of the people in the organization have no respect for that. Um, it's really sad. I'm very saddened that this is what we're dealing with. This is the level of incompetence and disbelief that we're dealing with. We believe in Steph Curry more than this dumb, charlatan, fraudulent organization does. Joe Lacob. I mean, my mind is blown, man. And yet, I still believe, at the end of the day, I still believe in Steph Curry because he's the GOAT. The things that he can do on the floor, nobody in the history of the NBA has been able to replicate. Nobody has been able to generate the level of fear that Steph Curry has been able to generate when it comes to the games in general, but especially in the playoffs. The teams are petrified. They cannot leave him open. If they do leave him open, or if they allow him to play one-on-one, well, we saw what happened. Mike Brown learned that lesson when he faced Steph Curry with the Kings in that game 7, didn't he? Allowed Steph Curry to get his, and that's a strategic plan of a lot of coaches. Let the star of the other team get his, shut everything else down, right? With Steph Curry, you can't do that. If you let that, because he will drop bombs on you. And the more bombs he drops, the more desperate the defense becomes. All of a sudden, now you have no choice but to go and trap and double and all these things. And all of a sudden, his teammates are wide, wide, wide open. Now, the game of basketball is all about the ability to create space, right? Create space and allow your teammates, allow the game to be easy for your teammates. The easier you allow the game to be for your teammates, the better you make your teammates as a star of a team. That ultimately that speaks to the level of greatness that player has, in terms of how much better you can make your teammates, right? And when it comes to that, Steph, there is nobody that can make a teammate better than Steph Curry. Look at what he's done to Draymond Green, for example. He's made Draymond Green appear as though he's some kind of elite passer, right? The fact of the matter is that Steph Curry makes the game so comically easy for Draymond Green, right? Because when he gets trapped, Draymond Green is the valve, right? So when two are hard trapping Steph Curry, now their defense is completely compromised. They're praying that they can get a hand on the ball or like slow down Steph Curry in terms of him being able to get out of the traps, right? Because then they can recover. But Steph gets out of that trap really quickly. All of it, and now the defense is broken. Now you have 3 guys trying to defend 4 guys, right? And then what happens when that happens? When Steph Curry gets the ball over to Draymond. Draymond is now wide open. There's no defender in front of him. So of course, I mean, he can see the floor, right? So he can make those passes, but a lot of guys, if they're wide open, in the NBA, of course you can make the proper pass, right? So that made it seem as though Draymond was some kind of elite passer. He never was that. He was a good passer, but he was never an elite passer. It's Steph Curry that made Draymond Green. And Draymond Green is the stealer of assists from Steph Curry, right? Because usually you get out of a trap like that and you get the ball to an elite finisher, right? Let's say, for example, Kenyon Martin, right? If Kenyon Martin is rolling out of that trap, he's just going to go up and dunk the ball himself, right? Like you're not gonna stop him from getting all the way to the cup, but you know, Steph didn't. He had Draymond, so Draymond would be the secondary playmaker, and he steal Steph Curry's assists basically, right? And then people are like, "Oh, look at the assist numbers. He gets 6 assists per game, so he's not a point guard. He's not an elite whatever." You know what I'm saying? And that is just so it's really comical the way people analyze the game in that way. But because Steph Curry creates an unprecedented advantage where his teammates are getting wide, wide, wide open looks. If you look at the history of the NBA in the playoffs, the court shrinks, right? It's the amount of space shrinks. If you watch, for example, the Lakers against the Celtics, like Kobe Bryant against those, the Paul Pierce teams, right? Oh my God. Look at the spacing. There is no spacing. Nobody's open, right? Everything is just packed in the inside the arc because nobody's so worried about that 3-point line the way, before Steph Curry came along and changed everything, right? So that I'm just kind of explaining to you how Steph Curry opened up the game for his teammates in a way that nobody else could. That's why, for me, Steph Curry is an offense all by himself, whether it's him scoring or whether somebody is wide open because of him. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not so worried about the offense. It's always the defense, right? When your defense is set and you have Steph Curry, you can beat any team in a 7-game series, right? So that's why I've been trying to organize their defense forever. And that's why I've been so pissed off and upset at Steve Kerr for destroying their defensive structure ever since he lost Mike Brown. Because you lost Mike Brown, all of a sudden you care more about your offense. You're using 3 guard lineups with no defense, right? No POA, no rebounding, no secondary POA, no nothing. And ever since they lost Mike Brown, this is what's been going on, and that's what I've been trying to fix all this time. Um, and the worst thing about it is that they've had the pieces to play better defense, and Steve Kerr just hadn't been doing it because he cared more about his beloved motion offense. And oh, that doesn't look pretty. Oh, this player doesn't he doesn't shoot the 3-point shot, so I'm not gonna play it. This kind of thing. It's just really it's been vile and disgusting and sad. But now the Warriors are in a unique situation where they have these pieces, they have these bigs that can play inside out, right? So now he doesn't have to sit guys because they're incapable on offense. Kristaps Porzingis, inside out, ISO, he can do it all on offense, right? And then Al Horford, same thing. He can play inside out, right? So you can use size now, and you can use two-way guys on top of you know these guys being able to coexist in whatever offense they want to run. They can coexist in the motion offense. They can coexist in pick and roll. Which Steve Kerr has been using a lot more of, to his credit. And even in certain ISO situations, right? It's like we've seen Al Horford thrive in a post up situation against smaller guys in the paint, for example. So imagine what a guy like Kristaps Porzingis might be able to do. So they're in this unique position where once Steph Curry is able to come back, they can make some real noise because they have real defense behind them. That paint area is so protected with these guys. Ton of wings. I mean, Kristaps in there is saying, what is Kristaps Porzingis wingspan? I don't know. I don't know what it is. I'm curious, so I'm gonna look that up real quick. Kristaps Porzingis wingspan. 7'6" wingspan. 7'6". Whoa. 7'6" wingspan. You got Al Horford, who's got a 7'1" wingspan. You got Santos, who's got a 7-foot wingspan. You got Draymond, who's got a 7'1" wingspan. They have a lot of wingspan in that paint area. And that's really powerful for the type of defense that they play. So obviously their only concern is the lack of POA, just guys kind of getting burned. But that's the thing about this defense is that ultimately you're funneling the defense to the center and the power forward anyway. So as long as you can do that, and as long as you can kind of get connected back after getting erased out of a screen or something like this is where they miss that 6'7" guy like a Andrew Wiggins, also with like a 7-foot wingspan, right? And that's the kind of piece that the Warriors needed to look for at the trade deadline, at the buyout market, and these guys are just continue to show a level of incompetence there, right? You dare go to the playoffs with Buddy Hield as your primary POA? There's something wrong with your brain. There's something that's not clicking. You are not understanding something about the game of basketball that you need to understand, right? There's a structure in place when it comes to building a team. There are building blocks that make you, right, that allows your star to do what they do. If if those fundamentals are broken, your star player cannot do what they do because everything is broken. So no matter how good your offensive player is, if the structure of your defense is broken in some way, whether it's at the POA, whether it's at the secondary POA, whether it's at the power forward spot or the center spot, if something in that regard is broken personnel wise or the way your coach is running things, then it's not gonna work. You understand what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't matter if you're Michael Jordan. It doesn't matter if you're Kobe Bryant. If those structures are not in place, then you are not going to play at a high level. That's what happened with Kobe Bryant, for example, when he lost Shaq from his team, right? All of a sudden, that's what happened when Michael Jordan did not have Scottie Pippen, right? You need a certain level of eliteness in your defense for your star player to shine and do what they do. Same thing with Jokic when he didn't have KCP, when he didn't have these other guys, when Aaron Gordon still wasn't who he is now yet, right? When he didn't have these structural places and a strong bench coming in, all these things, he couldn't, you know, carry them to the top in all these things, right? That is the same no matter what superstar we are talking about. Look at Giannis. Ever since he lost Drew Holiday, replaced him with Damian Lillard. No defense, Damian Lillard. You go from the most elite defender in Drew Holiday, and you go to a defenseless Damian Lillard, and then you can start to see what started to break down for that Bucks team, right? Every superstar player needs that viable set of defense behind him for him to be the greatest version of himself, right? And that's where the Warriors have lost everything ever since they lost Mike Brown, ever since Steve Kerr went to these, fraudulent lineups where he's not understanding those structures, where he thinks it's okay to run a lineup of Steph Curry, Jordan Poole, and Klay Thompson, a broken Klay Thompson, a shell of himself, Klay Thompson. There is no defense there. So, of course, that unit is going to fail. And then on top of that failure, you are putting Andrew Wiggins at power forward. On top of that, you failed at another level now from your help defense. Your last line of defense is Draymond Green, and your secondary help is Andrew Wiggins at the rim. You're broken. And that is not Andrew Wiggins' role. That is not where his strength lies. His strength lies in perimeter defense, that length and his ability to bother, somebody trying to ISO play one-on-one, all these things, right? That is where Andrew Wiggins' strength is. You got to use a guy to his strength and maximize that instead of putting him out of position at power forward, which apparently is what the Heat have been doing. So that tells you also that Eric Spoelstra is also a certain level of charlatan, a fraud, because he doesn't understand that, hey, you can't ask a guy to be at the power forward spot and also ask him to be a POA and all these things. You can't play those two roles at the same time. You have to give one guy a specific role. You have to give another guy a specific role, right? And that is, you can see the reflection of the averageness of the Heat by looking at how they're doing and what their record is, right? So it's really sad to see this brokenness throughout the NBA, these coaches that knows all these schemes, all these different, plays, and the Chicago play, the Phoenix play, the Iverson cut. They have all these fancy names for all these, different angles that the players need to take to ultimately get to the ball, right? They want to do this high and mighty condescension of, oh, I know more than you because I know what these plays are called, and I run these plays and all these things, and yet you don't know how to set up a competitive team. You don't know how to set up a team to be ultra competitive and making sure that the most important thing is setting up your defense first and foremost. That is just basics of basics when it comes to the game of basketball. If you don't play strong defense, you are not going to be a consistently strong team. So, um, that's what I've been fighting for, and I know that within the Warriors, they have these pieces to be able to play really strong defense. And if you can do that, and you have Steph Curry on your team, and you have these other supplementary pieces on offense now with Kristaps Porzingis, Al Horford's been playing amazing. Santos has shown an ability to create his own offense. He's shown an ability to play within the motion offense. He's shown the ability to play elite defense, right? Obviously, I think he still has another level to get to. I think he's reached another level since last season in terms of defense, right? But I think he showed a certain level of limitations in terms of dealing with a certain level of physicality. I think we saw that against the Spurs, against Keldon Johnson. He got into foul trouble against him, and he was just Keldon Johnson was kind of having his way with him. I hope that Guy Santos will learn from that situation and matchup. You don't want to get into the playoffs and get into a situation where Santos is getting badly beat by somebody, right? In that way, you cannot fully rely on him. The most important thing to me is how well can you hold up against anybody in the NBA, right? And that's the thing that I loved about Andrew Wiggins. You got to the playoffs, and there was nobody that he could not handle that he was just getting completely beat, right? Whether it was Jason Tatum, whether it was Jaylen Brown, whether it was Luka Doncic, whatever, John Morant, like this guy was able to contain guys, right? That's the most important thing. You have to contain guys and make sure that these guys are not getting whatever they want against you. Because if that happens, then your defense is broke. Then you can be beat, right? You think about like the Mavs against the Suns, for example. The Suns were a much superior team compared to the Mavericks, and yet Luka broke down Mikal Bridges, right? And once that happened, nobody could stop Luka. And if you can't stop the best player of the other team, your defense is screwed. And that's how you become non-viable, right? So that's a huge part of what happens in playoff basketball. So that's the thing that I've been trying to get right for this team, because incompetent basketball minds in these organizations, unbelievable. So that's my little rant there. Let me catch up with you guys in the chat. Any news on Seth? Okay, Seth Curry is going to ramp up and start doing on-court activities, and they're going to re-evaluate him in a couple of weeks. The good news is that he's going to start getting active now, getting into shape and all these things. If they can get both Currys back, let's say in a similar time frame, Seth Curry is going to be, oh my gosh, man. With all the shooting and the defense that they already have, if they can add Seth Curry shooting into the equation, get past the hell. Let's say, they make the play-in playoffs, whatever, right? And Seth Curry is there, right? You're going to want to rely on Seth Curry over a guy like Potts. I promise you. Seth Curry is one of the most elite shooters in the history of the NBA. The Warriors are privileged to have him. Unfortunately, the sciatica situation's been pretty wild. But it seems like he's on his way back. So that's the situation with Seth Curry. We'll see what happens. Kerr might run another 4-guard lineup tomorrow if Curry and KP doesn't play. Yeah, well, we'll see. We're very hopeful that KP is going to play. If I heard somebody say that he is going to play, but we'll see. If Steph playing tonight, Seth reevaluated in 2 weeks. Now we have Porzingis. What do you think the lineup should be? So in the early going, especially with Steph Curry out of the long term, I would say it would be like Steph Curry, DeAnthony Melton with a minutes restriction taken off, Guy Santos, Al Horford, Kristaps Porzingis. That's how I feel. That's the kind of lineup that I feel they should be running. If you want to preserve Al Horford a little bit and have Draymond in the starting lineup, that's fine too. But there's a lot of offensive ability there with KP, Steph Curry, first of all, right? Guy Santos's evolution, and Melton, obviously. So there's a lot of balance of offense and defense in that. And then, off the bench, they have a bunch of reliable guys. Again, if Seth Curry comes back, you got that elite shooting there. You got whether it's Al Horford, Draymond coming off and you got Quinton Post still at that center spot. Uh, Yeah, and then you got, maybe GP2 in there for POA purposes. Obviously, he's not the POA that he once was, but if he has a lot of protection, especially in the back line, right, and not being asked to play power forward and all this nonsense, then he's going to look a lot better too. So there is a path for the Warriors to play dominant basketball. It just all hinges on the health and the well-being of Steph Curry, first of all, but let's say Curry's in general, and Kristaps as well. We'll see how Kristaps looks once he becomes available, plays for the Warriors. How's he gonna look? Can he maintain his health? Can he? Does he have this POTS syndrome thing in check? We'll see. Seth Curry is still dealing with sciatica. Injury more political than practical. Yeah, we'll see. Let me catch up a little bit here. Many because they are going to waive pods. They are never going to waive pods. That's why the Warriors need to think about the upcoming 26 draft to get a top 10 pick is good enough for the future. Listen, as long as Steph Curry is on this team, I don't want to hear about the future. I've never heard any team with a superstar on their squad talking about the future. The Warriors are the only team on the planet that I've heard a team or the fan base talking about the future after that player. Why? Why? How disrespectful can you get to Steph Curry and everything he's done and how he looks right now? I don't understand that disrespect. Seth will be a revelation, I agree. Well, Seth already showed, in the first, very first game that he played, he showed the ability to create his own shot, let alone being able to shoot, right? And he's a complete and utter positive on the defensive end of the floor as well. He's underrated defender, actually, despite being, a little undersized. He's 6'1", but he's very tenacious defender. If you remember, obviously he's a little older now, so the level is not the same. But man, I remember him giving Steph Curry some problems, some trouble. I remember there was one game where he stripped him like literally just picked his pocket like 3 times in a single game. Seth Curry. I would take Seth Curry's defense over Potts. I would take Seth Curry's consistent, defense over Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield sometimes can play really good defense, and sometimes he's really goofy. You never know what you're going to get out of him. Whereas Seth Curry, you know what you're going to get out of him. So yes, he has to be on the court and prove what I'm saying. Okay. The limited amount of time that he did play, he showed it. But that's not, we need a bigger sample size. I believe you'll see it when he does come back. I don't get how Steve Kerr won 4 championships with the most elite defenses and not disgusted by the current defense. He's a fraud. He's a charlatan. He doesn't understand when he's left to his own devices, because you see, he always had an elite coach by his side, a real coach by his side. All right. The first championship was a collaboration. Steve Kerr didn't know what he was doing. The small ball, the depth lineup wasn't even his idea, for example. That was Nick Uren's idea. What was good about Steve Kerr in his first year was that he was a sponge and he was willing to listen to everybody, right? And that's how they were able to win that first title. The offense wasn't, ultimately the offense and what they were running was what's his name? I forget his name. The 2014-15 Warriors coaching staff. Can't believe I forgot his name, but Alvin Gentry, there you go. Alvin Gentry was their offensive coordinator, okay? And their defense was Ron Adams, okay? And then they went and got Mike Brown. Just absolute elite assistant coach. When he was asked to take care of the Warriors defense, oh my goodness. We didn't have these problems. We didn't have these lineups that don't work, where it's like 3 guard lineups and senseless, ridiculous things, or it's just like, what are you doing? Excuse me. And ever since he lost Mike Brown, okay, now you can say certain things about Mike Brown. I think Mike Brown unfortunately caught a little bit of the Steve Kerr disease of playing these smallish lineups. But when it comes to his attention to detail, when he's coaching defense, that's where his bread and butter is. That's where he is truly elite. Okay. And they lost that. And then Steve Kerr, dude, he had Kenny Atkinson running their defense. Kenny Atkinson is a pick and roll offense guy. And he had that guy running their defense. Absolute nonsense, right? I don't think we should be worried about Porzingis because he came off an injury coming to the Hawks and dropped 20 first game back. We'll see. We'll see. Curry will never get his fifth. Ha ha. Curry getting his fifth title, to me, is written in stone because he's the GOAT. So the universe will make it happen one way or the other. To me, that's what it is. It's written in stone. There's no way that you are the GOAT and you don't end up with number 5. It will happen some way, somehow. As you can see, Steph Curry, in terms of his ability to play two-way basketball, is still there, despite the fact that he's about to turn 38 in a couple of weeks, right? So obviously the runner's knee thing, that's the thing that he needs to get right. It's not an ability issue, it's a knee complication issue. Okay. So again, pray that he gets over this runner's knee. He has to get over this for him to continue to do what he does. We'll see. And the really tricky thing about this thing is that this is not something that you can even get like a surgery for. You know what I mean? You can't get surgery for runner's knee. You just have to recover from it, essentially, right? So prayers. If you believe in that type of stuff, put up your prayers. Curry is potentially one jumper away from... Listen, be mindful and be careful with your words. I don't know why you would ever say something like that. You know, don't speak ridiculous things into existence. Steph Curry will be back. Steph Curry will get his knee right, and this season we'll get an opportunity to see what this team looks like, fully healthy, minus Jimmy Butler. What can we do with our cap starting 176 mil? For sure, Kerr will play Seth for 3 minutes and Potts for 28 minutes. By the way, I'll drop this one as well. Not everybody agrees with Steve Kerr when it comes to pods. There are certain people in the organization that don't believe in pods like that, and does think that Steve Kerr is either improperly using him or overusing him for one reason or another. But obviously, these people can also see what we see when it comes to the limitations of somebody like Pods, right? Like defense, he's not a good defender. The one thing that you can credit Pods when it comes to his defense is that he does hustle. It's not for a lack of trying, right? You think of a guy like Jordan Poole, his problem was with a lack of effort. He doesn't try possession by possession. You don't pay a guy like that 30 mil and overly rely on him to do anything for your team. Look at what's going on with the Pelicans now. They're desperate to get rid of him. They're playing a rookie, an 18-year-old over him. Right? A lot of that is rooted in the fact that Jordan Poole is a one-way basketball player. Okay? He's a selective defender. That's not good enough. But when it comes to Pods, he tries. He puts in max effort. He tries to take charges whenever he can. I think he's not been taking charges as much because he's been in the first 3 years he's sacrificed his body a lot. I give him credit for that. He sticks his nose in there, and you see he gets it in the face all the time. So it's not for a lack of trying. It's more a lack of ability, right? This guy has no wingspan, you know, no disrespect, but unathletic 6'4" white guy, what are you gonna do defensively? You know? He doesn't have elite lateral movement on defense. So he'll get blown by, even if he does try, right? So this is an incapability issue. It's not a lack of trying, it's an incapability issue. And if you're incapable, you need to take a seat. I don't care what you can do on offense. If you can't defend, right? Especially down the stretch of a game. And this guy has both way problems, right? When you rely on him too much on offense, it's a problem. He's not a point guard. He's not somebody that you want to give the ball to and have him be the primary decision maker down the stretch of a game, for example. We saw what happened when he did that against the Spurs. What was he, like minus 27 or something like this? Preposterous, right? And Steve Kerr just played him to the ground. Disgusting. I'm telling you. There are aspects of things that Steve Kerr does that a lot of people do not agree with on his own team. And yet it's being allowed anyway because he's Steve Kerr. He got 4 titles. Da, 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 da. You can't question him. You will look back. Shut up. Just tell the damn truth at the end of the day. Dub's org has been very disrespectful to Steph, needless to say, starting with their pathetic owner. Need to be in now. Remember Joe Montana? I don't follow football. Need to be in now is Curry, blah, blah, blah. Seth Curry is not that good of a defender. You see, you don't know defense. You don't know. I apologize. I thought I read Steph Curry. You said Seth Curry. Um, when it comes to Seth Curry's defense, he needs to get on the court, and then we'll see what his capability on defense is. What I saw from him in the initial minutes that he got on the court is that he is a very capable defender. All right, considering what he can do on offense, for he's not like he's not some Kyle Korver where you're like hunting for him because he sucks on defense or something like this. Okay, that's my point. All right, and I'm telling you, you can trust him more than Pods on defense. Look how many players have gotten hurt because of. So guys, like, I've been on for a minute. If you have questions for me, you start asking them now. I'll address them as much as I can. Before we wrap it up, you have access to me. Now is the time to ask whatever question you may have, whether it's about the Warriors, whether it's about the players, whether it's about the nuances, whether it's about me, whatever the case may be. Ruby, hello, nice to meet you. Hello, hello. Thank you for being here. Lee Farnaz, shout out to you. Appreciate you. Curry, Moody, Dre, Gee, KP. Curry, Moody, Dre, Gee, KP. So the concerns I have with that is that I don't really believe in Draymond as a small forward because I've seen him, as a power forward or as a center get switched up against guards or wings, right? And his perimeter defense is not good anymore. Like, it's kind of stinks, actually. He doesn't even contest well. Like, guys will put a move on him and he'll get frozen. He won't even contest. He can't. He gets frozen out there. So once upon a time, he could have played small forward. At this age, at this juncture of his career, I don't think he can. I think he's a poor defender as a perimeter guy. So that's why I don't like him even as small forward. Very sad. Yeah, I'll trust Guy Santos as small forward way more than I trust Draymond Green as small forward. So if anything, you gotta reverse. Put Draymond back at that power forward spot. Potts is overwhelmed by bigger guys. He's a matador on defense. Green is overwhelmed too. Both are too small for today's windmills players with elite speed and savvy. Kerr's a clown. Yeah, I don't overly disagree. I pray to God we re-sign Melton. Well, you better sign Melton over Potts. That's for damn sure. pass play better with a point forward like Jimmy or even Guy Santos, right? As long as he's more of a, oh, I have this opportunity now. I don't have to play make or look for my teammates or anything. I'm gonna look for my own. He's shown the capacity to do pretty well in certain situations in that regard. He feels more comfortable in that role, right? What that shows you is that he's essentially, a shooting guard. He's a shooting guard who likes to look for his before looking for others. That's why he's slow. His processing ability, trying to survey the floor, seeing who's open, seeing what play is about to develop. He doesn't see it before it happens. He sees it once it happens, and oftentimes he sees it late. And he's not exactly like a pinpoint accurate passer either. So, you look at his frame, you look at how he plays, you think he's a point guard, and he's just not, right? So, in a lot of ways, he's a very limited player. He is a role player in the NBA. I tore my ACL. Do I have a chance to play ball? Of course you do. You just have to rehab. It'll take a long time to rehab. Like, the NBA players, they go through grueling rehab. We cannot comprehend the amount of time that they spend for rehab. Like, if you've ever heard some of these players like talk about their rehab, it's absolutely dreadful, right? So for the average folk that ends up, going through like a serious injury, I mean, it'd take a much longer time to come back from, right? And so you'd have to be very diligent. You'd have to love the game of basketball. You know, Unbelievably so if you want to get out there and play at the level that you played before you got hurt. So Melton is so good for a second unit. Yeah, ideally you want Melton coming off the bench. Ideally you don't want Melton as your starter. You want an elite team will have Melton coming off their bench, not having Melton start for them. Should we tank? No. Warriors are winning the chip. I'm telling you, man, if they have everybody healthy and if Steve Kerr can finally play the right group of players and have a right, you know, group of rotational guys, and then in the playoffs you have just the right group of 8 or 9 guys, right? I don't think that there's a team where it's like, if the Warriors run into this team, they're screwed. I don't see that. I don't see it. Now is this is like the NBA is going through a transitional phase where there is no dynasty. There isn't like one clear-cut team where it's like, that team, that's it. That's the one. Like, the way the Warriors were, for example, right? Or the Spurs were, or the Heat were for a stretch where you're like, if you run into that team, it's gonna be a gauntlet, right? That team doesn't exist right now. That's why this is such a great time for the Warriors to be all in. They are that team. They're supposed to be that team. They are supposed to be the gauntlet team that these young teams are trying to, you know, be able to move past, and they shouldn't be able to because Steph Curry is that guy. There's nobody in the league that is better than him right now. That's what it is, but it's distorted. It's been distorted by horrific coaching, horrific management, horrific, personnel acquisitions or lack thereof, or whatever the case may be, right? No team on their in their right mind is thinking I'm gonna start Buddy Hield in the playoffs next to Steph Curry at the small forward spot. You understand what I'm saying? So uh, it's frustrating to say the least. And Curry's gonna be 2 5-point guard defenders in playoff like that. What would your best starting lineup look like for us? I already said that. Thoughts on Nate Williams? Not yet. Not yet. The only way I would have any interest in, a player like that coming into the Warriors is if Steve Kerr has interest in him. Yeah, that's the only way you're gonna get a chance to watch that guy play for the team, right? Will they sign someone like Lonzo? Pray that they don't. The Warriors have 9 guards on their roster. Do they need a 10th one? Draymond needs to be bench and play for second unit. I mostly agree. I like Kerr. Like Kerr is still sending lineups like it's 16-17. 16-17, they didn't run 3 guard, 4 guard lineups, man. They didn't do that. Have you tried applying for a job with the Warriors? How? How do you do that exactly? So Draymond is bad on offense and defense. Yeah, I mean, there are certain matchups where, like the Spurs, for some reason, he loves going against Wemby, right? He had a really great two-way game against the Spurs, but yeah, not enough. You think Jimmy will say it was a joke and come back in the Seth, Gee, KP, Al, Steph Curry, Seth Curry, Guy Santos, Al Horford, and Kristaps Porzingis. I like it. I like it. There's a lot of size. Uh, Steph Curry and Seth Curry, that gravity is insane, right? You leave somebody open, you're screwed, right? If you don't recover on Seth Curry, you're screwed. If you don't recover on Steph Curry, you're screwed. If you don't recover on Al Horford, KP, you're screwed, right? And Guy Santos' 3-point shooting getting better and better and better, right? So you can't leave anybody open there, and you got a lot of two-way ability there as well. So I do quite like the idea of a lineup like that. I understand passion, but you always come off so angry. Everyone sucks to you, but Curry. I don't even know really what to say to that. You can think whatever you want about me. And when you look at the crimes that have been committed, of course I'm going to be upset because the Warriors could have gone these different routes where they would have given Steph Curry better odds of competing. If you have a Michael Jordan, if you have a Kobe Bryant, if you have a LeBron James, you have these all-time players on your team, of course you want your organization to do the right things and get the right group of guys in there, right? And the Warriors didn't do that. What did the Lakers do ultimately? They went and grabbed Pau Gasol, they went and grabbed Ron Artest, and they went and got two more. They went and got 2 more titles, right? If they didn't go and do that, would Kobe have gotten 2 more titles? Probably not, right? So did the Warriors do these things? No, they held on to Jonathan Kuminga for 5 freaking years. And if you're not upset by that, then I would argue that you have no passion about who Steph Curry is in this league and what he's capable of, and what his legacy has already been, and how his own front office has compromised his legacy, unbelievably so, in the last 4 years. Right? So take it or leave it. And also, it's not that everyone sucks to me but Curry. It's just that I believe that these guys don't hold a candle to Steph Curry. And you're free to disagree with that, but that's just me. And because I have that belief and understanding of who he is, that's why I put up this fight. Because honestly, like, how many people are really? Who do you think Lonzo Ball as the second unit is good? Listen, Lonzo Ball is shooting 30% from the field, 27% from the 3-point line. There's nothing good about that. There is a certain baseline that you have to meet as an NBA player. Right? You guys are not even happy with Pod's shooting 40% from the 3-point line. You think you're going to be happy with Lonzo shooting 27%? They're going to leave him wide open, and he's going to brick everything. That's what you want? Right? Like, the guy has a cartilage replacement, for crying out loud. It's never happened. This is, like, unprecedented. And you can see it's not really working. That's the guy that you got, like, you want on the Warriors? Like, we gotta have higher standards for who can join the Warriors. Trying to win a title is not a joke. You need very specific pieces to try to go for it all. You have to be more selective. Porzingis will average 18 plus. He came to the Hawks off injury and dropped. Hey, Porzingis averaged 18 points playing what, like 20, like 3, 4 minutes per game? Let me take a look at Porzingis real quick. Let's see. Yeah, Kristaps Porzingis played 24 minutes per game, averaged 17 points per game this season. If he can just get himself right, like what are his per 36? Per 36, he's 25 points per game this season. Yeah. He needs to get up that 3-point shooting. He shot 41% last season. He's shooting 36% on very high volume. He needs to get that up. Um, Obviously, offensively, he'll be playing, very different compared to what the Hawks were doing. But yeah, when it comes to Kristaps, first and foremost, we just need to see him on the floor. You think the Warriors bring back KP if he gives them a good sample? Yeah, quite possibly. And depending on how good that sample is, but Kristaps is when he's healthy, he's a special talent. So, and he's a champion now as well. I think the Warriors. Guy was a point guard on the Brazilian team. Was he? I know that coming up, he played point guard. I didn't know that he played point guard for the national team, but you can see like he has more handles and creation ability than Pods, Moody, Kuminga, like all these young players of the Warriors, right? He can actually beat a guy off the. You notice when Guy Santos creates offense for the Warriors and penetrates and gets into the paint, he's not doing it off a screen. He's just beating his own man and getting in there, drawing the defense, and then passing to the open guy. And then the defense is rotating. By the time they're all rotated and the Warriors find a wide open guy, and the Warriors are getting a wide open look because Santos has created that opportunity for his team. Like I mentioned with a guy like Potts, like not everybody can create. I would argue that Guy Santos has shown more ability to create offense for his team than even Melton. Melton this year has been more about himself. Like he'll penetrate, get into the paint, and before he looks for a teammate, he'll look for his own shot. See what I'm saying? There's a difference between a guy looking to create his own shot versus a guy looking to create for his teammates. So Guy Santos, on top of everything he does defensively, the fact that he can play small forward and power forward, the fact that his 3-point shooting has improved, the fact that he can get into the paint and have these savvy moves and finishing ability, right? The last two game winners is his ability to finish in the paint, at the rim, right? So he's just like a Swiss Army knife out there. He can create for his teammates. He can create for himself. He can rebound. He has a nose for the ball. He gets to loose balls, steals, blocks, hustles like crazy. The ability to recover out to shooters. I think he's probably the best on the team right now in that regard. Quinton Post is really good at it. Al Horford is pretty decent at it. Other than that, I don't see another guy who can get out to shooters better than Guy Santos has shown. With that 7-foot wingspan, increased strength. All like he's just like, yeah, and he's shooting a very very high percentage from the field, very efficient. Yeah, his development this season has been incredible. Potts is good point guard and pickup games. We need a wing for this draft. I don't want to. I'm not talking about draft. Guy Santos will get picked on in the playoffs. I'm worried about our defense. Well, that's the thing is that Santos has not been getting picked on by anybody. The first time he got into trouble was really against dude from the Spurs in the last game. And the thing is, Santos got into foul trouble. Yeah, they called a bogus foul on the guy. The refs were calling all the foul. Like Moody got into foul trouble as well. Just a lot of bogus calls. It's a nationally televised game. That's what happens to the Warriors all the time. Every time they will get into, the refs will screw them over one way or another. And Santos picked up a really early foul in that third quarter. So then from there, he had to be careful, be more apprehensive, because he cannot afford to pick up another foul there, right? So of course that will naturally make his defense lesser, right? This season, I've seen him be able to guard a lot of power forwards. I've seen him do a really capable job against even a guy like Julius Randle, for example. Um, and that's the thing is like if he can handle a lot of power forwards in the league, he can handle just about every small forward in the league. You see what I'm saying? So that versatility is very powerful. For him to be multi-positional means he can guard multi-positions. That is very valuable. Will you make videos after Curry retires? That's a good question. I'm certainly not going to be covering the Warriors anymore after Steph Curry retires. The Warriors don't deserve any more of my time after Steph Curry's done. Joe Lacob deserves none of my time. He deserves none of your time for all the things that he's done. He is going to be Vivek Ranadiv 2.0, this guy. He will destroy the Warriors with his ego and thinking that his sons are going to get the job done and thinking that he's some basketball mastermind. Like he is going to destroy the Warriors. The Warriors will be worthless for the next decade after Steph Curry is done. I'm not, my time is valuable. My life is valuable. I have other things to accomplish in life. Um, and if I cover the game of basketball in some other way with this channel, maybe we'll see. But it won't be the Warriors. Yeah, there's your answer. If Joe Lacob stuck by Steph Curry and did right by Steph Curry, and was loyal and like is somebody that I can truly appreciate and all these things, then it would make sense for me to continue to support this team to some capacity, whatever. But Joe Lacob's scumbag. I'm not supporting that. I will laugh at his demise. That's what I'll be doing. I will run a lot of offense through the post. Let KP, Big Al, and even Gee in some cases work on their game with their back to the basket. Also run more pick and roll. Absolutely. The game becomes much easier when you run a whole bunch of pick and rolls. That's why this is a pick and roll league, right? It's because when you run the pick and roll and variations of the pick and roll, you immediately create space. Most of the NBA cannot get around screens. The screen navigation is terrible. We've seen that with a lot of the Warriors players, right? There's only like a select group of players that are really good with screen navigation. And because of that, when you run the pick and roll with somebody with the ball in their hands directly, you've automatically created space for that player, right? Most teams play drop coverage still, right? So you play drop coverage, all of a sudden, if you have a capable offensive player, you play drop coverage, you're screwed. If you have a center that's slow-footed, you're screwed, right? Instantly, you're playing with space. And then if you play like Spain pick and roll, you have another screener coming in, right? Now you have another guy open from the three-pointer. Like it's simple offense, right? And Steve Kerr wants to galaxy brain his offense and think like you have to do rocket science before somebody gets open for a shot. And even when you do all that stuff, a lot of the times somebody doesn't even end up getting open and somebody ends up taking a terrible shot with the shot clock running out. That is half of the motion offense. It's an amateur offense. Motion offense, it's like you run it, but then you add wrinkles and variations and make it work according to the personnel on your team. But Steve is just like, oh yeah, just random offense, do whatever. That's why the Warriors offense has been so terrible over the years. Warriors have been done. Time to move on. Yeah, no. As long as Curry is not done, the Warriors are not done. 10 to 12 man rotation at most. 12 man rotation is insane. 11 man rotation is too much. 10 is a lot for most teams. Most teams run a 9 man rotation. Warriors are not a bad team if they're healthy. They are. Listen, man. I really pray that Steph Curry comes back soon enough because everybody healthy. Kristaps there. Steph Curry healthy. Seth Curry comes back. You're going to see that they are more than not a bad team. The young Hooper, hello, hello, hello. I can't believe fans are still doubting Steph after everything he's done. This is what we deal with, man. We deal with a bunch of disbelievers. It's not just the people. It's Steve Kerr. It's Joe Lacob. It's a bunch of people in that front office. Bob Myers. formerly the general manager, included. The level of disbelief in Steph Curry is truly sad. That is the reason they pivoted to the two timeline because they lost Kevin Durant and they're like, oh, we're not a serious team anymore. Disgraceful, disgusting. They thought that Kevin Durant was a better basketball player than Steph Curry. Well, time has proven otherwise, hasn't it? And how about Kevin Durant, man? And all this drama about the burner account. I mean, the level of insecurity on this guy is simply unreal. I mean, I almost feel bad for him. I almost feel bad for him, man. Yeah. He genuinely believes that, like, he was a better player as well, playing with Steph Curry. And now he's been trying to win and team up with other guys, try to win without Steph Curry. And now he's finding out the truth about who he is as well when he doesn't play next to Steph Curry. He is not that guy. And he's proven it over and over and over again throughout the course of his entire career that he can't win anything without Steph Curry. So actually he had the chance to win one time against the Heat in the finals. Right? That was the one time that he showed that. Yeah. Actually, I almost feel like you know what, I'm not gonna get into that, but it's very unfortunate. He's just such an insecure individual talking about his teammates and like it's just it's funny and it's sad. He needs to stop treating Curry's last year as a business. Well, that's what Joel Lacob said. We're not a basketball team. We are a business. We are running a business. There you go. The guy has zero loyalty to everything that Steph Curry has done. The reason his franchise went from $400 million to $10 billion is because of Steph Curry and the fact that they won titles and the fact that he sells all the tickets. And Joe Lacob, he thinks like, oh, I'm gonna replicate this. I'm gonna continue to make the playoffs, and I'm gonna continue to be competitive right after Steph Curry. Like, guy's delusional. Wiseman, Moody. Plus, Steph gets a raw deal when it comes down to the whistle and referees. He gets treated like Shaq. Guy is 6'3". He gets treated like he's Shaq. He should have signed with Nike. That's what it comes down to. Signed with Under Armour. Became competition to Nike. Not good. Yeah. There's so many ways where Curry's how things could have gone for Steph Curry did not go the way it did. Over time, I will use this channel to kind of break down all the history behind Steph Curry and what he could have been and what he ended up not being. Even through all that, he still became what he became. Which is really truly speaks to his greatness. Kuminga and Potts was our first round picks, no stars. Fire the scouts. Yeah, the scouts. People don't know how to scout. That's the problem. Even if you are, trying to draft for the future, right? You have to scout for the dogness of a certain player to understand the viability of that player, or that player is generationally good on offense, right? Like Luka, for example, very very poor defender in a lot of ways, but generational offensive player, superstar, sells ticket like that. Those kinds of guys, if they're available, you got to get them, right? But for the most part, like you gotta if you truly want to make noise and build a superstar, or at the very least a star, you gotta know what to look for. You gotta look for two-way guys. You gotta understand that these guys, what do they care about the most? Do they care about themselves the most? Do they care about the team the most? Do they care about the success of the team? Do they care about winning? Or do they care about, oh, I want to be an all-star? Or are they like, that's what Steph Curry, for example, in the earlier years, when I had the discussion with him and I asked him like, what are your ambitions? This was his going into his third season. I asked him like, what are your ambitions? What do you want to accomplish in the NBA? And he was like, at the end of the day, it's about winning for me. That's all I care about. If I'm winning, if our team is winning, then everything else will take care of itself. And for Steph Curry, that's been largely true. But you need these types of mindset. You need guys who have a certain level of maturity about them, right? Um, because it takes a lot to be a franchise caliber player. You need a certain level of maturity. You need a certain level of brain capacity and power. You need a certain level of understanding. In a lot of different ways, right? So when you listen to a guy like Potts, for example, the guy is deluded. He's delusional. He's talking about, I look forward to taking the keys and becoming the future of this team. I look for my goal is to become better than Steph Curry. Like, this kid is delusional, right? He's not saying the right things, right? And he's not intelligent. And he doesn't look for his teammates, and he doesn't. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is the type of player that you don't want to be building around, right? Scouting involves a lot of things. There's a lot that goes into scouting, right? So yes, and given the fact that it was Joe Lacob doing the scouting for the Warriors, you know, should we sign Gee to a long-term contract? Of course, absolutely. That is homegrown talent. Literally, you use the G League to develop him, and he's become an incredible asset for this team. Um, if you don't sign a guy like that, it's like, what? Why do you even have a G League system? What are you doing that for? You know what I mean? Like, you did something amazing for once, right? So that's the type of guy that you want to sign, of course. What's wrong with being passionate and angry? The crime line was bogus. I don't know what that means. All-time starting five. Thanks for replying. But Seth will get punked as a shooting guard because of size. No. Well, ideally, again, you want him at point guard, not shooting guard. The guy is 6'1". He's not a shooting guard. He's a point guard. So that's the position that you want him to be. Generally, you want to kind of put him in a spot where he's guarding the other teams, like corner shooter or something like this. You know what I mean? Somebody who is limited in their role on offense. That's the kind of guy that you want to put Seth Curry on. Kobe spoke up and demanded it. Exactly. I will say that as well. That Steph Curry, there are certain ways in which he lacks leadership. Right? He's the guy who needs to put Draymond in his place. He could never do that. He's the guy that needed to put Steve Kerr in his place. He can never do that. He's the guy that needed to put Joe Lacob in his place. He can never do that. Steph Curry is too kind, too nice, and he allows other people to take advantage of that kindness. And as a matter of fact, he allows them to abuse that kindness. Okay? And that is very poor leadership. If you're Steph Curry and you see the front office favoring kids who don't know how to play the game of basketball, um, instead of trading them away for players that are ready to help them win a title right now, right? Right after Steph Curry helped you win a title, right? If you're Steph Curry, you gotta be like, hey, what are we doing here? If you're not interested in winning anymore, if you're more interested in this two timeline thing, if you're interested in life after me, just move me, trade me now, right? That's the kind of pressure that you need to put on Joe Lacob so that you don't allow him to do what he did the last 4 years. That is the responsibility of the super. That is on Steph Curry. If you want to win as much as you do, if you want to reach the upper echelon as much as you do, and the reason you still play to this day is because you want to win more, right? And that is your goal, and that is Steph Curry's goal. Then it is your responsibility to do what's necessary so that the team takes those proper actions because they're not taking them. And Steph Curry didn't do those things. So, some of the stuff is partly on him as well. He doesn't have a killer mentality. He has a kindness mentality. And that doesn't necessarily align when you're trying to compete at the highest level in this killer league. You know what I mean? This NBA, this things are moving very fast, players, coaches, these guys, their roles um, in the NBA are finite for a reason. And it's not the time for you as a leader of this franchise to be too kind and too nice and allow guys to get away with a bunch of BS. And that's what Steph Curry has allowed. Jonathan Kuminga was a waste of time. Yeah, Needless to say, they accomplished absolutely nothing in the 5 years that he was here. Disgusting. You'll find in the right after the championship year, you'll find where I've posted videos saying pleading, warning for the Warriors to trade him now, before they waste. Because I said it then and there, 22-23 season, I was like, he's not ready to contribute right now. He will not be ready to contribute next season, and he'll not be ready to contribute the year after that. And all of that ended up being true. And that's because I know how to scout. That's because I know how long it takes for a player to develop something if they don't have it. One of the most important things that he needed to have that he didn't have is defensive intensity, a level of competitive spirit. There's a softness about the way he plays defense that will you can never be competitive and try to gun for titles with players like that in your rotation, no matter how capable he may have been from an offensive standpoint. And even in that standpoint, he was limited. Okay, so yeah, here we are. It finally gone. And finally, we have Kristaps Porzingis as the replacement. A very, a Kristaps Porzingis with a lot of question mark. Kobe demanded, Curry ain't doing. Yeah, don't get angry, Jim. Front office is busy trying for Padres. Will you still? Why you keep asking the same question, man? Will you still make videos after Curry? I said no. Is Gee a 20 mil a year player? No, not right now. He's not. He's going to have to earn it. Like, he's more like I think he'd be happy with like, a multi-year 8 mil per year type thing. He would have to really earn his way to become, 15 plus mil per year kind of guy. We need to have a all hustle bench. Chris Boucher over Lonzo. Well, Chris Boucher is, he's considered a big, and the Warriors don't need any more bigs. They traded TJD because they didn't need another big. So that doesn't really work. Will you join Cyrus on live? Why in God's name would I do that? Will you make videos after Curry return? Goodness gracious, man. Okay, parts of stamina is above everybody else's. He's everywhere, but sometimes his defense is lacking, along with his consistency in his shooting. I assume you are talking about Guy Santos. Guy Santos, oh man, his ability to play the way he does for long stretches, even as a starter, is actually incredible. That's really hard to do. Most guys who play like him they resort to being a one-way player because all their focus and energy is going to that one way, that defense, like a Tony Allen or something like that, right? It's kind of how he plays. But Guy Santos has shown that he's got such a huge gas tank. It's actually, like I said, it's really incredible, underrated. KP defense would be atrocious. Expect him playing around four guards. Are you sure he can handle that? There's no reason for there to be four guards anymore. You pray that Steve Curry is done with that nonsense, because if you're playing four guards and you got KP out there, that means you're sitting Draymond. That means you're sitting Guy Santos. That means you're sitting Al Horford, and that doesn't make any sense, right? Why or how would you sit those guys? Those are all indispensable guys that should be sharing the floor. Can you speak on Draymond's lack of aggression and trying to score at the rim? It really frustrates me. He never looks to score. Yeah, that's just what his mentality has become over the years. I think Steve Kerr truly ruined him mentally over the years. That 2016, 15, 16 season, Draymond was an incredible two-way player. He was averaging like 15, 10 rebounds, 8 assists. Like, that's really incredible, right? And Draymond was having the time of his life playing for Luke Walton in the first 40-some games. They went 39-4, right? With Steve Kerr out of the equation, playing for Luke Walton. And then Steve Kerr came back, and almost instantly, Steve Kerr ruined Draymond's confidence. Basically, what happened was sometimes Draymond would shoot the 3-point shot a little bit early on the shot clock. And given everything that he was doing on both ends of the floor, if the guy sometimes throws up a shot early, that's okay. If you're the coach of this team and your team is 39-4 without you, then you should give a guy like Draymond more freedom, right? Because 39-4, how are you arguing with that, right? But Steve Kerr interjected, got in the way, and told Draymond to stop shooting the ball so early in the shot clock, and they got into a fight about it. It was like 3 games back after Steve Kerr came back from his spine issues. It was against OKC. If you guys remember that bang bang game where Steph Curry went crazy and hit that near half court shot to win the game in overtime. That was the game where Steve Kerr and Draymond were fighting, and it could be heard outside the locker room. Draymond's like, "I'm not a robot. If you don't want me to shoot, I won't shoot." Blah blah blah. And ever since then, Draymond's confidence in his ability to shoot it just went down the toilet. And then especially after KD joined, he was just like, "Oh well, I guess I'm just not even gonna score anymore, really." And then that's when he started to become like triple single guy, And then over the course of time, he just stopped caring about his own offense. That is the doing of Steve Kerr and disabling the potential of what Draymond could have been for this team. Yeah, very sad. I want to see you and Siren. Why? Why? What is this obsession with this guy, man? Like, to be honest with you, I wouldn't have cared and I wouldn't have minded if he's apparently he's the one with the animosity. He hates anybody who had a problem with Kaminga. Like he had an obsession with Kaminga and like anybody who thought otherwise about him, like he hated them or something, right? So I'm not and like somebody can have a differing opinion about Kaminga. I'll have a conversation with them, no problem. But if the other side has a problem and like hates me or something because they don't like what I'm saying about the dude, I can't control that. I'm not interested in somebody who's talking about me in that way. Um, I'm sure you guys know what's his name. There's another guy on YouTube. Um, I forget his username, but he was also like a huge proponent of Jonathan Kuminga. I've had multiple conversations with him. I wish I can remember his username, but um, yeah, like if he wanted to have a conversation with me about these dynamics, I'd be happy to have a conversation with him because I've talked to him before, and he's a reasonable person. So 27 games left in the regular season. KP defense would be atrocious. Who can't wait for tomorrow's game? Can't wait to see the 5 guard lineup. KP defense would. Why you guys keep? Some of you guys keep like repeating the same thing over and over. QP is DMP because he's too big and struggling on the 3-point line. Yeah, let's hope that Steve Kerr finds a way to keep him in rotation because off the bench he's been playing much better as a two-way player, and he was gaining confidence, and then Steve took that away from him, and Steve's just an awful coach, man. Awful coach at developing guys' confidence, giving guys confidence, right? Confidence is such an important thing when it comes to the game of basketball. If somebody is taking away your confidence, especially some guy who's at the top, like that's really bad, man. Again, we're talking about grown men here. We're not talking about like high school boys. And so for Steve Kerr to treat these guys like high school players and take their confidence away and yank them 2-3 minutes and having grown men look over their shoulders to see if they might get yanked out of the game, like this is a joke. You don't treat grown men like this. Horrible. Are you gonna cry when LeBron retires? What in the world? I couldn't care less about LeBron James. Half of his career is very fraudulent. The narratives on him is fraudulent. The notion that he's gonna be compared to Michael Jordan is fraudulent. A bunch of his rings are all fraudulent. It's very inorganic. So yeah. We got a good Jim. Remember the old days also. I'm retiring as a fan with Curry. How the new how is the new park edition? Quiet background, baby sleeping. Yes, he is sleeping. He he's got two teeth growing from the bottom. It looks like reverse Bugs Bunny. It's quite cute. Jim, OMG, I'm a less than 1% watcher. It's so good to see you stream. Dark mode user, thank you so much for the support. I appreciate you. And all of you guys that are on this channel and, helping blow up this channel, the commenting, the liking, the sharing, and, you know, for us to go through this situation together. I'm grateful to have you guys with me on this journey. Um, at the end of the day, I'm here to fight. I'm here to tell the truth. Yeah, it's those two things. I'm here to tell the truth, and I'm here to fight for the things that are going wrong for this team. And you guys care about this team and love this team as much as I do. So I appreciate you guys more than you know. I'm gonna take a couple more questions, and then I'm gonna wrap this up. Bro, you remind me of the dude from Hangover movie. You have a big personality. um, thank you. I follow the Warriors when Wilt played for them. That's insane. You must be in your 60s or 70s or something then. Looking forward to seeing Curry and KP play together. I can't wait. This is the thing about doing something live is like I can't cut this stuff out. Yeah, this is what we're looking for. The combination of Curry and KP playing with, these guys that have already established themselves as primary core pieces that keep the Warriors defense together. What if Warriors fans get what they want firing Curry next season, but Dunleavy is coaching? Then Lacob Suns will be the new GM. Yeah, well, that's not happening. Dunleavy is not there to coach. Terry Stotts is right there. If Terry Stotts takes over, the Warriors would dominate next season. I have no doubt about that. Do I see a path to a title contention next year? Yes. I want them to move Jimmy Butler's contract, though. He's not worth that contract anymore with that injury. Even this season, his defense was declining. So I love Jimmy Butler. I think Jimmy Butler is one of the greatest teammates that Steph Curry has ever had. And it happened really quickly. The level of support that Jimmy Butler showed, he took his ego out of the way, put it to the side, and being like, I'm the Robin, Steph Curry's the Batman. And you saw how that enabling and that empowerment and that support, you saw how Steph Curry's production level and the way he was playing, the way he was carrying himself, like he put himself back on that level that he was playing some years back, because before that, like he was really starting to struggle, you know what I mean? And so you need teammates like that. You need even for a guy like Steph Curry, you need guys around you that that they're supportive of you, they want you to succeed, and they are there to play for you on your behalf. That's what you should be. As a teammate, you should be playing for your teammates, right? First and foremost, you play for the best guy, but also you play for everybody else. That's the beautiful thing about Guy Santos. What he said in a recent interview, he's talking about like, I love playing for Al Horford. He plays for you, and in return, I want to play for him. That's the kind of beautiful, selfless mindset that you got to have as a basketball player, rather than just like me. Give me the ball. I need the ball. I need to be featured. I need to do well and da 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 da. Right. So for Jimmy Butler to show that level of support for Steph Curry, it was so beautiful. I love seeing it, compared to like guys like Draymond Green, this Judas thing that he's become, signing with Clutch and, being on LeBron's camp. What the hell are you doing? Right. And then, Klay Thompson, especially after the injuries, being insecure and competing for shots with Steph Curry. I want to be an all-star again. Give me all the shots. I'm going to chuck it, whether it's a good shot, bad shot. It's not a good mentality. Okay. Whereas Jimmy Butler was like very clear about his role, what he wanted to, you know what I mean? So it's really sad and unfortunate that he had to go through this injury, and now, being at the age that he is, he's going to be 37 next season. His defense was already declining. Now with his knee injury, his defense will never be the same again. he'll be useless on defense. And that's not the type of guy that you try to win a title with. That's why I want his, it's the situation. As much as I appreciate Jimmy Butler, as much as I wanted him to retire with Steph Curry, that ship has sailed with this injury. And that's the nature of the NBA. The NBA it's a business. These guys earn a lot of money, and if they can no longer produce at the level that you're getting paid, then you're gonna have to make adjustments and make moves and make changes. And that's the thing about being the leader of an NBA team, being a general manager. You have to make very, very difficult decisions, right? Knowing that it's a business, even though you have these relationships, right? You have to make difficult decisions as a leader of anything, right? So, and that's the difficult decision that is upon Mike Dunleavy now. And we'll see. We'll see the level of eliteness or the lack thereof when it comes to his decision making. Ooh, I see I'm quite behind in the chat here. Sorry guys, I'm trying to address as much as I can. Draymond costs us three rings easily. I mean, it's tough. I would always blame Joe Lacob and Steve Kerr above any other players. There's a lot of issues that I have with Draymond. And again, one of these days, I will do a comprehensive breakdown of all the things that he's done wrong for this team over the years. And his disloyalty, especially, and the reasons behind those things. I have a unique understanding of these things because of, I've either been around this team or been on this team and following this team since the beginning. So, and then obviously, I tend to see things in real time in a lot of instances where with certain things, it takes certain people weeks, months, and years to see, That's why I'm able to do what I do. If I couldn't see ahead, I wouldn't be able to break down what's going on with this team to the extent that I do. Curry won 4 rings with the ops Steve Kerr, Klay Thompson, KD, Green. I wouldn't call Klay Thompson an op. I would not do that. It's unfortunate how his career ended up winding down with the Warriors because of those injuries. The injuries are the ultimate, it's really sad. Klay Thompson should have ended his career as a Warrior and couldn't do that because of, multiple obstacles, the injury, his problem with Steve Kerr, all these things. Ultimately, Klay Thompson, for the first, at least the first 3 titles that they won, he was an absolute hero for this team, So I mean, you think back to that Raptors series and what he was doing in Game 6 before he got injured. Such a heartbreaker, Draymond Green, on the other hand, this guy has been an issue for this team for a long time in a lot of different ways. Steve Kerr, yeah, that guy, he may as well be an op. So, and of course, you forgot Joe Lacob. For Steph Curry to have won 4 titles, especially the 4th title, for him to win that, despite nobody in the organization believing that he could. I mean, it absolutely speaks to his greatness. Who would you like to see the Warriors get if they move the Butler contract? Well, that's the big question. It's like, who's available? What could they move that? Who could they move that contract for? What team is willing to take on that contract? All these different things. So we'll see. But guys, I'm going to cut it here. Thank you so much for being here. And like I said, I I will do these live so that you guys can ask me whatever question that you want to ask. I'll go over it all. And right now, again, just prayers up for Steph Curry and his knee, and we'll pray that this resolves itself sooner than later, because the longer it takes, the longer the season dwindles down, the harder it'll be for them to make the playoffs, and you know how it's gonna go. So, but if he does come back within like a week or two, there's a lot of basketball to be played. Their schedule is relatively easy. And again, given the fact that the Warriors have been competitive without Steph Curry and Kristaps, and then you add those two guys into the equation, we can look for a lot. We can look forward to a lot. That's how I feel about it. I'm not giving up on anything yet. There's no reason to. So keep your hopes and beliefs alive because we still have Steph Curry on this roster. That's all I got. Tomorrow's a game. The Celtics. We'll see how that goes. I'll see you guys after that game. Have a great night. And that's a wrap. Good night.